just start as well and welcome you all here to this seventh annual E. John and Cleo A. Rumpakis lecture. This is a lecture that was endowed by a couple of proud Greek Americans from Portland, John and Cleo Rumpakis, and they wanted to make sure that we had at least one lecture a year that talked about Greek archaeology. And we are very grateful for the opportunity that we can get people from quite far away, as you see here, somebody from Alexandria, Egypt, to talk about Greek archaeology-related subjects. And I would actually like to ask you, this lecture is going to be filmed by CCTV here in Salem, and it's going to be available to the CCTV channel. But we will also send a copy of the recording to Mrs. Rumpakis. And unfortunately, we cannot send it to John Rumpakis anymore because he passed away last year. But I wanted to make sure that we thank Cleo Rumpakis for continuing to support this lecture, and I would like you all to turn around, face the cameras, this camera here, and thank Cleo Rumpakis with a hearty applause. Okay, I don't know if I mentioned my own name. Nobody can pronounce it, nobody can spell it. It's Ortwin Knorr. Knorr like the soup, as I would say in German. And even then people misspell it. I have, as I said, I have the honor to introduce tonight's speaker. It is Dr. Thomas Fauché. He was the director of the French Center for Alexandrinian Studies in Alexandria, Egypt. And he's also a tenured researcher at the French National Center for Scientific Research. He's one of the world's foremost experts on the economic and monetary history of Egypt under the Ptolemies. And the experts here will probably know that those are the Macedonian Greek rulers descended from Alexander the Great's general Ptolemy I, who ruled from 305 to 285 BCE. And Cleopatra, whose coin is going to be discussed today, among others, was actually the last one of this long line of proud Macedonian rulers. Okay, so it turns out, as I figured out as I looked at Dr. Fauché's CV, that he actually has an Oregon connection. He studied for a year at the Portland State University, which was the alma mater of John Rumpakis. So there's even a connection there. And which is the reason why his English is fantastic. And the funny thing is that he actually wanted to come here to play golf. University studies was like the secondary thing. And then the minute that he turned up here, they figured out that he had played in France. Were you already professional at that point? No. Anyway, he was ineligible to play for Portland State. And so he actually had to study, which changed his entire life, as you can imagine. Now he's here. He got his master's from the University of Poitiers, and then later completed a PhD at the University of Paris, Sorbonne. And it was on the Mint of Alexandria under the Rumpakis, that's another word for the Ptolemies. And between 2011 and 2013, he then served as a research fellow at the French Institut Français d'Archéologie Orientale in Cairo. And during that time, he was also involved in the Egyptian Gold Project. Maybe you can tell us more while he's talking about the coins. And co-directed the French excavation of Samud in Egypt's eastern desert. After similarly prestigious research positions in Orléans and Bordeaux, he completed his habilitation. That's the second PhD that qualifies him to actually work and teach as a professor. He did this at the École Pratique des Hautes Études in Paris. And in 2021, he returned to Egypt to work at the CALEX, that's what they actually call the Center for Research on Alexandrine Studies in Alexandria, and became the director of this particular institute. He has published and edited 7 books and numerous articles, so many in fact that he doesn't list all of them on his CV. And this includes a book that won 2 scientific awards on Ptolemaic bronze coins from 2013 for Prix Monnaie, meaning money, the fabrication of bronze monies in Alexandria under the Ptolemies. So this particular topic is really dear to his heart, and he knows a lot about it. He actually told me to stop him if he talks beyond 40 minutes. Good. So that brings us to tonight's lecture, which is entitled Decoding Egypt, Ptolemaic Monetary History for a Coin of Cleopatra's. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Thomas Fouché to Willamette University.
Thank you very much. I hope you hear me well, and I hope this microphone will work. Thank you very much for hosting me and to be such a big number. Thank you for beating the 2 other lectures that I've been doing so far. We'll go in the University of Oregon the day after tomorrow, so but thank you for coming. I will put it down. Is it better like this?
Yes, less echo. Great.
So as Antwin already mentioned, it's really the core of my subject, speaking of this bronze coin of the Ptolemies, and I will try to be brief on this approach.
Maybe it could be done this mic?
No, it's coming out.
Okay. The computer itself.
Oh, it's just one. Yes.
And it's because of the movie that we're doing.
Okay, I'll keep it like this. I think it will be good. Thank you very much. So I will introduce. Okay, very good. Okay, so coin of Cleopatra. Why a coin of Cleopatra? Because everyone knows Cleopatra. I'm sure you know about Cleopatra. Even you don't know where she has been. She's born. You don't know what time she was born, but at least you know about Cleopatra. Just to make a brief statement, Antwin already discussed about that. We're going to look about Egypt. For those who don't know who's on the map, it's Eastern Mediterranean Sea, and it's the kingdom of the Ptolemies was at its best at the 3rd century BC. It reduced a little bit over time, and Cleopatra, thanks to the lands given by Mark Antony, we'll speak about that a little bit later on, he gave back Cyprus to her, and it was limited to Egypt. I will speak more about Alexandria today. So when usually people speak about coins, we speak about numismatists. It's coming from nomisma, it's a Greek word naming the coin, which comes from nomos, the law in Greek. And usually you describe the coin like this. So Ptolemaic kingdom, Cleopatra the 7th, Alexandria, it was between 37 and 30 BC. It's AE for bronze coins. The weight of the coin is 15.42 grams, 27 millimeters, 12 hours, so it's the link between the obverse and the reverse, the description of the queen, and then the ingots hanging on the right, the reverse, and then reference catalogs. But we can go far beyond this. We can speak about the history of coinage. That's what I will speak first, about to put back how and in which lineage this coins was struck. You can also speak about archimetry, how the coin was made, about archaeology, how and where it was found. You can also speak about the ancient economy of Egypt, so how much it worth, and art history and what it shows on the coins itself. So Egypt was one of the latest kingdom and one of the latest country to be monetized. Before the arrival of the Ptolemies, there were a few coins came to Egypt. The most famous was this coin struck by Athens. It was used to pay mercenaries that were coming from the latest pharaohs to pay soldiers, so mercenaries coming from Greece. They knew the Greek coins, so usually they were happy to be paid by good silver coins, and this coin is the most famous one. After a while, some of the pharaohs, which was coming from Persia, Artaxerxes, Sabakes, and Mazakes, struck the same coins, but with some details that you can see that's coming from difference. You have either Demotic or Semitic languages on the reverse of the coins that differentiate the genuine coins from Athens from these imitations. There were also gold coins that were struck. There was one only coins in the American Numismatic Society that you see on the left from Tachos. And you have these famous coins struck by Nectanebo II after Alexander came to Egypt. We show it's the only coins we know showing hieroglyphs. So one horse and this hieroglyph showing, which is it's called Nub Nefer, which is pure gold, which gives you the quality of the gold. We know by the analysis that actually it's not pure gold, but it's gold mixed with silver, but at least they were facing and they were on the face values was showing pure gold. And then from Alexander, at least for the gold, you have this famous stater from Alexander the Great that circulate. It was the first intentional coin that circulated in the known world at that time. All these coins were worth their weight in gold. So it means pure gold, you can exchange for the value in pure gold. What is really important to know about Egypt, it is one of the first closed monetary systems. And we know that from papyri, especially this papyrus coming from the Zenon collections, now held in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. It's a letter from Demetrios to Apollonius that say, I won't read the text, but he shows that he needs to change the coins that are coming from foreign merchants to change them for local coins. That they were the only one coins that get used in Egypt. For us, it's normal. You came from abroad, I'm coming with my euro or from my Egyptian pounds. I need to change them to use dollars to pay anything in the US. It looks normal for us, but it was not the case in the antiquity. So they're the first kingdom to put this system in place in a large level. It was so successful that this system has perdured until the end of the Roman period in Egypt, the end of the early Roman period, until the 3rd century AD. So meaning for 6 centuries straight, you had to change your foreign coins to local coins. That was, of course, completely devaluated. So for a coin of 17.2 grams in silver, you had the same coin of 14.2 grams. So each time they were changing coin, the Ptolemies were earning 3 grams of silver. It was really smart, but because people had to come to Egypt to buy the grain, and the grain was really cheap in Egypt, they make people come to the US, not the US, to Egypt. Sorry. But it looks like the tariffs are so much in the minds of people now that I'm speaking about that. I need to pay a tribute. I will speak about different people tonight, especially this lady, Catherine Norber, which is a very nice lady who's actually living in Los Angeles, the best specialist of the Ptolemaic coinage. She has been written this very impressive 5 volumes book over the past 5 years. It's a work of 40 years. And you have inside all the coins struck by the Ptolemies. which is a huge catalog with few thousand entries. And she made work that no one else could have done. So I, of course, participate to the catalog with her, but I need to pay tribute to her work. The system was working, the currency was working with gold, silver, and bronze coins. What you had the chance to see is one of the bronze coins. I will come back to that later. If you didn't see it, maybe you have the chance to see it afterwards. But it's really nice to have a piece of ancient Egypt here. This coin is 2,300 years old, so it's worth to have a look. So the gold system was working first with the Ptolemaic, first the Stater, and then the old gold Ptolemy. So it's going from Ptolemaic the first till Ptolemaic the 14th. So you can see the evolution of the coins. It's one of the kingdoms that shrugged the most coins in antiquity for some reason, because you had gold mines in Egypt, and a lot of the gold were coming from actual gold mines. I'm working on that. I won't speak about that tonight, but I'm actually excavating gold mines in this Eastern Desert, where exactly at this period people were taking out gold from the mines. For the silver, there was also the same system, and one main denomination was used. It's called the tetradrachma, so a coin that worth 4 drachmas. And the evolution was, you have the head of Alexander the Great in these coins, struck by Ptolemaic IV, and this one. At some point, Ptolemaic I, put his own portrait on the coin. And it's funny because it continues, you can see my ear, it continues that it was the same portrait used, not on this coin, but it's one of the only exceptions, over and over again until the time of Cleopatra VII, that I will speak more about, with the same portrait, but the centuries are going on and it's getting younger and younger with the which is when you're a king and a deity, you can imagine that you can get younger. That's the only possibility. And then you have this portrait evolving for 3 centuries. You have to know that, and it's really well presented in the book of Moses Finlay, that coinage is made about trust. People trust coins because they know them. If you change, for example, you have the quarters for so many years, everyone knows the face of the quarter, actually the reverse of the quarter, and people don't want to change that. When they know that, they stick to it, and it's better for people and it's better for the state to keep the same image because people have confidence in something they know, and they know it because the quality of the silver was good. At some point, they will see that it didn't last for long. So I will speak also about this coin on the left. It's a coin that actually is held here in the University of the Museum. That I will maybe do students can have access to the coins. It's possible. So I will. Sometimes the coins are really sleeping in coin cabinets, so they really like people to see them and to look at them. They're really happy with it, so I'm sure this exact coin will be happy to see some people. So it's a coin of Ptolemaic IX, so struck at the end of the 2nd century BC. It's a silver coin, and we know exactly the date of the coin because it's written here. It's L for etus and eta for the date. And then you have it's actually normally at the beginning the place where it was minted in Paphos, but then for no reason, Alexandria puts these specific letters on this coinage as well. I wanted to show that because Cleopatra's coins coming at the dramatic point in Egypt. The graph you see here is we make analysis on the composition of coins. I won't enter the details about how it was made, but we know exactly the composition of the coin. So we see here it's 100% silver. And you see until the mid-2nd century it was good, and then it was less good. And at that moment, under Cleopatra, it started to be really, really bad. So what did Cleopatra? Cleopatra was really smart and she knew about the coinage. So what she did, she withdrew all the coins in silver in the circulation. She put only with 2 times copper in it, and then restrike it and give it to people to the same value. So of course people were tricked, but they can't afford to do anything because that's the only coin that you have in circulation that you can use. But that's really a dramatic moment. It's really interesting because this coin of Cleopatra shows also the date, so the etus, and here the date here, but it shows also a palm branch over the eagle, and then Isis head. So usually in coinage, when you see symbols appearing, that means also that there could be a change in the value of the coin. So that's exactly what they did, and she did, and to show people that there was a change, she put new symbol on the coin. What we can do as well is that, I usually don't say that with museum people, but I like to cut coins, to section them, because that's the only way to study what's inside. And to, as Otwin mentioned, I did my PhD on the minting of coins, so how the coins were produced. So I had the chance to, a colleague of mine who's now a curator of the Greek coins in the National Library in Paris, he had to, when he had the position, he couldn't keep his coin collection, so he gave me some of them to cut them. So it was really a dramatic moment for him, but I was really happy. And so then you see look the inside of the coin. And when you see a coin, especially a silver coin, you really have to be careful, because these coins, well, they don't look great. Usually the coins of Cleopatra don't look great. These ones are not looking very good. But you see in the inside that even though there was a very little amount of silver into it, they made some kind of chemical corrosion to the coin to show that there were more silver than it was actually in the coin. So you see that there is a core of copper, and on the outside it's silver, it's pure silver. So people, they have this in hand, they think, oh, it's really nice, nice silver coin. But actually, it was not. It was some kind of fake silver coin, even though it was produced by the mint of Alexandria. I won't bother you much with that. Just to present you the bronze, because the bronze, we set up a new system that is not working now under the range, but now the series. Just to tell you that these series are going from 1 to 10, and the series that we're interested about is the last one, the series 10, made by Cleopatra the Seventh. To show you as well, it's the ancient system, especially in Egypt, was working pretty much as the coin system is working nowadays. You have different denominations. But what differs from antiquity is that it's really rare to find the values of the coins on the coins themselves. So the user can rely only on their habits and the size of the coins and the image that were shown on the coins. So I took this series 3 because it's one of where you have the most denomination. So you have one of the coin that is, the biggest one is 100 grams, it's really a huge coin. The second denomination, and you see the image is pretty much the same. So you have this image of two salmon, here is two salmons as well here. And then you see there is a small difference in the rivers. You have one eagle with the head reverted, here there is two eagles, one with the open wings. This one is with the closed wings, but this one is not a Zeus salmon, it's a laureated Zeus. The only difference is here you have a horn of salmon, and here you have only this roll headband. Here you can see that these two coins have the same reverse, but the obverse is different. And then the same reverse, but the obverse is different. So the Ptolemies are playing with a small number of images, but by small details they were able to tell people how much the coins was worth. After that, in the 2nd century, you have new types that are coming, type with Isis, and another type from Alexandria, with the elephant headdress on the top of her head, and head of Heracles. What is also interesting of the coins of Cleopatra is that Cleopatra, all the copper to make the coins was coming from Cyprus. We know that this big circle here of points is coins struck by Ptolemies, and we know that because the Ptolemies had the control over Cyprus, and Cyprus was the biggest mining district in the area, all the copper from the bronze coins were coming from Cyprus. What is interesting is we know that Cleopatra is going to Rome to meet Caesar, and she stayed pretty much 2 years in Rome. We know that she has a son called Caesarion afterwards with Caesar just before Caesar was assassinated in Rome. And when she's coming back in Egypt, she could have used the copper from Cyprus, but this analysis shows that the coins were made of another copper, not the copper from Cyprus, it was most likely copper coming from Spain. So you can see that change, and you can see that these dots, the coins of Cleopatra, as the red dots, and these darker blue dots are the coins of Augustus. These coins, Augustus, when he takes over Egypt just after Cleopatra, makes the exact same coin. Of course, he changed his portraits for a portrait for his. And he kept the same kind of coins because he knows the same thing about the confidence that people were used about these coins. But the copper looks the same, so it's most likely that the copper used for these coins are coming from abroad and not from Cyprus. Just to show you a little bit about the archaeology of numismatics, I've been working a lot on that, is where the coins are coming from. Especially the coins, you can imagine that it's a single coins. You can buy these coins in Europe. I don't know how much you buy it, but a coin like this, you can have it for, let's say, $50, $100 for normal quality coins of the Ptolemies. These large ones can be worth much more because they are bigger and they are less in numbers. But you have to imagine that these coins have been struck in huge amount of numbers. I did a lot of calculation to study that, but I calculated that the Ptolemies over the time in gold, silver, and bronze struck about 300 million coins. To give you an idea of the amount of coins struck, which is nothing compared to now. Like, for example, I did that for the euros. I don't know about the US, but euros that struck for all Europe in 1 year, it's only the coins struck by the Greeks for 7 centuries. So it gives you also what's the amount and how ancient monetary system, ancient civilization was less monetarized than we are now. What is interesting for Egypt is that these coins were found in a specific moment, from the very end of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th century. Pretty much nothing has been found afterwards. I'm speaking here about the boards, and one of the key guys here is Giovanni Natali, who's an Italian dealer of antiquities. He was living in Cairo at the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th century, and he was dealing with thousands and thousands and thousands of coins, and unfortunately he actually melted down some of the coins for their value in silver instead of sending them for their value and numismatic value. He said in one day he melted down 1 ton of ancient coins, which is about 200,000 coins. You can imagine in one day. And he said that he did that several times. You can imagine, just to show you how many coins were found. It's not really, it's very interesting because it's really ancient, but it's not something that you couldn't find. It's something you have in big numbers. I calculated that overall, all the museums and showrooms in Egypt are still kept in Egypt about 800,000 coins in the different museums. Some are kept in the Egyptian museum. That was the state of some boxes. There was boxes like this. There was 7 boxes like this 10 years ago in the basement of the Egyptian museum when we rediscovered them with the curator there. And she saw him, I have some boxes with the coins. I saw small boxes. These are not small boxes. You see myself, a younger me, taking these coins by hand, actually by hands. There were 1 ton, 300 kilos of coins in the basement of the Egyptian museum, which is about 300,000 coins. So you can imagine what's in the other museums. I know in the Greco-Roman Museum in Alexandria, for example, the collection is 150,000. So, of course, I'm not the only one working on coins, but there are works for generations and generations to come. And just to show that, it's descriptions of, I took the French one so I can, there is the last one is Egyptian, but the first one is French. And most of the time they say, we found again coins, we don't want to find coins again because they're coming with spies and things. And heaps of Greek and Roman and Byzantine silver and gold coins, like heaps. Like, it's not like only one or two that's finding a lot. And usually they are either throwing them away, that's why we found it in the basement of the Egyptian Museum, or they were giving that to visitors at that time because people coming from abroad, it was easy to give coins, so they were giving that to visitors. I will speak about that briefly. It's the Ptolemaic hordes. I made a specific book about this Ptolemaic hordes, so you can see the number of coins that were found in this world that were registered. And it's interesting to show this graph. It's all the hordes found in Egypt for the Greek and the Roman period. So you see it starts from 320 BC to 290 AD. And you see there is quite a big gap here. Can find here. At the time of Cleopatra, we know only one horde made of bronze. We know one horde that was found in Abydos, but it was found actually not found by the excavator, but found by someone that was bringing the coins to Petri, which is a famous English archaeologist, and he reported that he had one horde of coins, or group of coins buried together with coins of Cleopatra and Augustus. That's the only one we have so far. We have several of the silver ones, and you see I like this picture, it's a picture from the 70s, and it was found in the Achoris Chapel in Karnak. Karnak is one of the biggest temples in Luxor, in south of Egypt, and this exact coin, because I had a chance to study the coins, and you see how it was made. It was found in a pot. Usually hordes are found like this in a pot of ceramics. People were hiding the coins, thinking that they would have the chance to find them back. Most of the time they did, and sometimes lucky for us, they didn't. So we can find this hoard of coins. This coin was about 70 coins only. We have bigger hoards of several hundreds, sometimes several thousands of coins that are found. Then it was the work of my habilitation. I registered pretty much all the coins that were found in Egyptian excavations over the past 150 years. So I found not so many that were published, unfortunately. It's about 6,000 coins. To give a sample big enough. And all the dots, it's all the sites where these coins are coming from. And this table shows you the numbers of this coin, and you see there is a big series of coins, number 7, that is found in big numbers. At the time there was imitation, and there was the coinage was not working well, and there was only 152 coins of Cleopatra found, which is not much. As I said, what is interesting is because people had to change their coins from outside Egypt into Egypt, that we found very little coins coming from outside Egypt into Egypt. So that's really interesting. At least these coins coming from the Levant were found in Egypt most of the time because soldiers were bringing into Egypt and they couldn't spend it where they were abroad, and then they bring it back to Egypt. But that's pretty much the only case we found foreign coins in Egypt. What is interesting about this exploration of coins is we know that not all the Egyptians were using the coins. They were using the coins because they were obliged, it's because of the taxes. They had to pay their taxes in currency, so then they had to but when there were problems, usually the Egyptians were not using coins. It's only the Greeks that were using coins. And then these findings show you pretty much where the Greeks were and how the coins developed itself. So series 1 and 2 was likely in the northern part of Egypt, in the delta and close to Alexandria. Alexandria, to remind you, is these big dots here. And then over the time, You have coins of series 3, 4, and 5. Series 5, so you see this coin here, and you see the obverse. That's pretty much the coin that you will see here. It's an obverse of is a Jussaman and an eagle and cornucopia on the reverse. And it's spread over Egypt because people are too easy for tax. It's pretty much the same in the 2nd century with the series developed. Series 9, pretty much everywhere as well, more coins in the Fayum. What is really interesting is that we can think that once Egyptian people knew about the coins, they would continue to use it, but that's not the case. And what's really interesting about the coins of Cleopatra is that the coinage shrinks into the region of the Fayum, which is here, and around Alexandria. And we know that it's the preferably place where Greeks were living in Egypt. So it shows you that Greeks were using the coin in specific areas, and the rest of the population pretty much left to use the coinage. Of course, when we speak about coins, we have to speak about the economy itself, and not all what was paid in Egypt was made with coins. They were also made into banks. There was a really developed banking system in Egypt as early as the 3rd century BC. There was banks that were ruled by the Ptolemies, by the government, let's say, until the beginning of the Roman period. There was no private banks until Augustus. Apparently, it may start under Cleopatra, but we don't have evidence for the moment. But for Augustus, you have private banking. But just to show you that we have a lot of coins that are circulating, and we have these accounts into the papyri. We have thousands and thousands of accounts mentioning coins. Unfortunately, the papyrologists who are studying the papyri are not very interested into the coins, so they speak about the papyri, not into the coin system. But these accounts are really interesting. What about the face value? How the coin was worth? What is, once again, and why I picked this coin of Cleopatra, is that you have the value of the coin. Of course, you can't see it right now if you are not really acquainted with the coins, but you see a letter here on the reverse. Here you have a P, this Greek letter, and here you have a mu, which is in Greek numbering system is 80, and this is 40. So you have a coin of 40 drachmas and a coin of 80 drachmas. It's the value of the coins. Why they put the value of the coins? Because they must have changed the value of the coins before. If you don't have the values, it means that people know about it. When you start to put something on the coin, I was saying that about the silver, and exactly the same for bronze. If you put something on the coin, you put the values that you change the value. So it must have been different. We don't know exactly how it was before, but we are sure that this value are 80 and 40 for these coins. And we know it's also that Augustus, and you see this coin, that he continued to use this value system until, let's say, the end of the 1st century AD. So for a century, he continued to use these face values. How much is worth? So you with this coin of Cleopatra, you can go for 1 week in the public bath. Show you it's a real image, or a great image. It's a reconstruction of what was a Greek bath in antiquity. So usually it's really small coins, so you can go for every week for 1 day. You can go every day for 1 week in the public bath, and it was this. You can buy a kilo of wheat. Just to give you an idea of what it was. And it's also what it is, an average day, a day wage for a worker. So it also gives you the thing that people don't realize, that these coins in the antiquity worth a lot more than what we have now in our pockets. For $1, you are not paid for $1 in the US, but at that moment, this 1 coin can pay a worker. This special is coming from the tomb of Osiris in Ptolemaic, which is the time of the 3rd century BC. What is also very interesting about this coin is that it's the only representation of Cleopatra that we are sure that it's Cleopatra. Because Cleopatra is so trendy, right? Especially right now, it was not the case let's say 50 years ago, but now everyone speaks about Cleopatra, so everyone wants to see Cleopatra anywhere. So if you go to a museum and you see Ptolemaic statues, half of them will be Cleopatra, which is really, really unlikely. But the people say it's Cleopatra because it's more fancy to say Cleopatra than Berenike the Fourth, for example. She exists. So I won't enter the details about her beauty because it will last for ages, and for me it's not very interesting. But just to tell you, what is interesting is that the art historians, and I usually have some problem with art historians, they say like, oh look at this this melon hair dress and this diadem. We know that it's Cleopatra for sure. And at this, when François Quérel was a famous French art historian, came to the National Library and to see the coin collection, and he was saying that to Cleopatra and said, but do you know this coin? It's dating from the 3rd century BC, so 200 years before, and exactly the same headdress, the exactly same diadem. So when you look at a statue, next time you will see Cleopatra, just look carefully because I wouldn't be sure that it's Cleopatra on the statue. Of course, Cleopatra struck other coins than these specific bronze coins. She's the only coin that is struck within Egypt, but she struck coins elsewhere, especially in the Levant, where she struck different coins. And she put different portraits in Egypt. This was really simple, but in the Levant, it was different portraits. And you can see she had jewels, she wearing the chlamyds, which is really interesting because she's the only, and the first at least, the first queen to wear the chlamys, which was this, how do you put it over you, but it's only for the emperors. And she's the only queen to put that, and it was a specific meaning because she paid for pretty much all the troops of Mark Antony. It was to show that she was also the general of the troops and she was founding the troops. So all the imagery of Cleopatra is very interesting. I have a PhD student that is finishing a PhD in the University of Montreal. It's called Evelyne Bernard. She's going to finish in a few months, and we're discussing a lot about these different portraits used by Cleopatra. It shows that Cleopatra was really clever. She knew how to use the coinage. And we'll finish on that. Thank you very much.
So we open a field to questions now, and perhaps you've been warned that we are vicious questioners here, that we ask all kinds of fun things and try to stump you. And so, but yeah, we should have some time to take some questions from the audience.
You want the mic?
Yep, sure.
I'll just hand it out there. Where was the next person? Over there somewhere? Okay, good. So my question would be, if the smallest coin that you have here is already worth 1 day of wages, what do they do for smaller stuff? I mean, how do they pay for just one bread loaf, let's say?
That's a good question. The thing is that we're not paying small amounts with coins. And as I said, like, the ancient economies are completely under-monetized. So you have to imagine, like, some people in villages in Egypt never saw gold coins, and they saw very, very rarely silver. I always say that for bills of euro. There is in euros, there is 500 euro bills. I never saw one myself. It values the half of the quantity of money that is printed by Europe. And this, you never see it. So it's this kind of coins that were helpful. And the other people, they were exchanging. You cannot go to buy like your day for wheat or something. You just were buying quantities for 1 month, but you were never paying like just a little bit. And you have accounts. Like was the case not so far ago. You go to the bakery and you pay for the whole week, you have a tap open, and after the end of the month you were paying for the tap. And I think it was working like this. People have to remind I have to remind people that the economy is really under-monetized, and you have not so many coins in circulation, so people don't use it for very everyday things.
You mentioned that at a certain point she printed essentially like copper coins that were very thickly minted with silver. Was this like the first time we saw like plating coins to increase in value?
No, it was the thing is you have to imagine that once the first coin was minted, there was fake coins afterwards. The coin was always counterfeit from the very antiquity, which is the most interesting case, I think, is when they start to mint coins in Asia Minor in the 7th century BC. When they start to do that, they did what we call electron coins, which is a mix between gold and silver. No, we thought at the beginning, before we made analysis, that these coins were made of natural electrons that you can find in the rivers in Asia Minor. That's why they were minted there, which is usually 70% gold, 30% silver. But what we found is that it was exactly the inverse. They put like 30 or 40% of gold and the rest of silver. So they were mixing from the very beginning. So it was like really a surprise to see that. But people were doing fake coins as soon as the coins were made. It's still a case where you get death penalty in antiquity. It's still the case in Europe. You get 25 years to counterfeit coins because it's coming from the state. The state is putting this mark, so you clearly attack the state if you are making fake coins. And all the kingdoms, medieval period, always fear to have fake coins. So there was really this death penalty occurred a very long time, because people were doing fake coins all the time.
I think you hinted at this, but can you tell us the origin of this concept of designing the poem? This is old world, but this is taken off of other coins. Can you share some insights about that?
What I find really interesting about coins, I was struck one day, I was applying for a position in the British Museum, and they asked me, okay, how to present that to a coin to a 10-year-old kid. I was completely stuck and I completely froze at that moment. But I think actually it's quite simple. Like the coin struck in antiquity are exactly the same. It's working exactly the same now. If you take a coin, if you have a coin in your pocket, you have on your purse usually the head of whatever is the authority. If you take a coin of England, for example, you still have the head of the Queen. Now the head of the Queen, and another, the year it was minted, or information. Do anyone read that? When you take your coin, you know it's a dime because you know the size, you know how it looks like, but you never look at what's written on the coin. It was exactly for antiquities. It was made like this. You had on one side usually have the head of the emperor, the queen, or the deity of the city when it was a city. I was showing the coin of Athens. Athens is a clear case where you have the head of Athena of Athens, and you have the owl, which is linked to the mythology of Athena. So it's either mythologic, but it's usually linked to the state, because when the state is putting this mark, it shows that it gives the value to the coin. Because the coin that you see, the bronze coin, this one, doesn't work. We said that for gold and silver, for example. Usually in antiquity, let's say until the early 3rd and 2nd, you can melt the coin, which was forbidden. You can melt the coin and have the same value with the metal. For the bronze, it's not the same. This bronze coin was value 80 grams, for example. If you pour it down and you sell for the metal, you're going to have 1 gram. So it means that the state is giving the value. And this means confidence. So they have to keep this confidence on the king himself, on the emperor, to give the value of the coin. So it was kept pretty much for all the antiquity and even the medieval period. you have some differences for medieval coins of Islamic, for example, because you can't show a human face on Islamic coins. So they found another way, they put the name of the people. But it's still the value of what the government is giving the value of. So that's why we start, like, for example, printing a 1 cent coin. So the 1 cent costs more, 3 times more to print 1 cent coin than the cent itself. That's why we stopped minting. It was the same in antiquity. You need to have a value of the coin, and this value was given by the state.
You might have mentioned this already, but I think I missed it. When you were talking about the distribution of the 6,000 coins across 72 sites, how did you know, like, where to look? Like,
Where do I come?
like how did, yeah, basically.
But the thing is, I spent about a year in the library in the French Institute in Cairo, because they have in Egyptology all the books printed on Egyptology. There was 100,000 books in there. So I went pretty much in all archaeological excavation reports, and then I searched in the coins. I think maybe I missed some points, but yeah, the vast majority of it. So I just went through all the archaeological reports, because no one did that before, so I needed to start from scratch. So I went through all these books, it took me a while, and then I had this result. It gave me the possibility of writing my habilitation, what was the core data of the habilitation.
You might have mentioned this already, I'm not sure, but I was kind of wondering, like, how these coins were forged or how difficult it was to print them, because obviously we have much more advanced technology now. So I'm just wondering how they were able to replicate coins in the way that they were able to.
In antiquity, you mean? In antiquity?
Yes. Yes.
That's a good question. So there were, because I forged myself a lot of coins, not for selling, but for the sake of research. So you have different ways to forge it. The first one is you mold the coin. So you make, you have 2 ways to make it. It's either wax, or you're making the print in clay. You fire the clay, and then you pour metal in the mold, and then you have the exact replica of the coin. Usually you can see it because it's not, normally the coins are struck by two metal tools to give the print, and usually give a very straight relief that you don't have on molded coins. So usually you can see it. Sometimes you have bubble because you don't pour the metal well, so you can see it. The other way to do it is to carve these dice. So this dice is these 2 tools for which you strike the coins. What is funny with coins, they're exactly working the same way. They use steel dies to strike the coins. So you can do that, but it's really more difficult because you have to imagine that it was really skilled workers working for the Royal Mint in Alexandria. So no one was able to, not so many people were able to do it. So when they did that, usually it's because it was bad and you can see it. The question is, did people accept the coins? That's the question. And what we see before Cleopatra, there was a big mix of forged coins and original coins. But the people, they were so desperate to have coins that they accept the bad coins. And I say the bad confidence. If someone tells you, this give you it's 1 dime, you will take it anyway if it looks like 1 dime or not, because you can keep it. Because if the other one in front of you accepts this exact coin, whatever it is, you don't care. So the forgeries usually come at a time where people needed money the most, and they are desperate for money, so they make forgeries. Because the risk is so big that especially when you forge bronze coins, the value of it is not very important. It's better to forge gold coins. But for bronze coins, especially for Cleopatra, they were really little forged, even during modern times, which is good for this coins. My PhD student, Evelyn, did the corpus of all the coins in the world of these coins, and we have about 700 of these coins kept in the world.
Oh, the micro box.
That's what's just like this.
It's okay? Yeah.
So my main question is kind of, you kind of covered it, but like you said, a lot of them were found kind of between the early 1900s and 1950s-ish. And I was wondering, obviously they were found in hoards, but what was more of the context that they were found in? Like, was it generally just people's houses that they had to abandon and didn't return? Or like, why was there such a high concentration in the 1900s rather than modern or even before then?
That's also a good question. The problem with 19th century and early 20th century is that archaeologists were digging in Egypt were especially bad. I mean, especially bad because in Europe at that time they were doing good things. And in Egypt we were still have people, okay, I made an adventure, I have some money, I will dig in Egypt, they don't know anything. So they were actually digging, not really excavating, they were really digging. And unfortunately, a lot of these contexts are lost. What we know from known context, because we have some, for example, we have the coins found in the excavation of Caradis in the Fayoum, where it was made by the University of Michigan for 4 or 5 years. We found a lot of coins there. It's mostly found in places where you have around markets, for example, or people's clothes. Some coins of gold were found in houses within the wall. Most of the time it's within the wall. They were working on the wall under the ground to hide it for some time, and they were living. So usually it's around the markets where people were using coins, which is normal. And one of the places which is very interesting but quite disgusting to work in is the latrines, because as you can imagine, people were losing their coins while, and they were not going to search for the coins. So that's why we have a lot of coins in the public restrooms. Sorry about this anecdote, but it's true and it's really interesting.
Do you want to get rid of the echo?
How can it?
That's what you said, right? Okay, just hold on away. Okay.
I'm not gonna use that. What was the point of putting dates on the coins?
What's the point of putting dates on coins?
That's a good also. So the purpose of it, not so many people did that. It was many of the Seleucids did that also in Syria and places like this. Ptolemaic did that, but only for a while. They did it in the 3rd century, second, for some coins, but not for all. Most likely is because they can come back to the people who struck the coins. So when you have a mark of the date, you can come back, for example, if you have a forgery, you can come back to the bank and say, okay, look, this coin is fake, was it from the national bank, for example, so you get your reimbursement. During the day, we'll allow people to come back to who made the coins. I think it's more a question of control than anything else.
Yeah, so it's either like, so that you will take the coin or so you won't take the coin.
Yeah, we know that in the markets, for example, we know that for Athens, there were people that were paid on the public space to test the coins. If you are in a church, you go to one guy and say, okay, if this coin is good or not, and if this specific guy tells the coin is good, anyone has to accept it. So we know that from the Athens market, for example, and it's likely that we have that on other places in the ancient world.
Oh, we have one more question? Okay, let's make that the last one.
that's fine until
The mic check.
So you said that the ancient. So you said that the ancient economies were demonetized, correct? So if they didn't pay with coins for the most part, what did they pay in small amounts for the daily wages of workers? What did they pay them?
so maybe I need to. So when they were paying for daily wages, usually you have an account. Like we know that very well for soldiers. Soldiers, when we go to the Eastern Desert, we have accounts on Ostraka, which is the piece of pottery where you have writing to a line and thing. And you know for the soldiers that they were paid whatever, 50, whatever, for 1 month. And then they were putting food, and they were putting other things, and they were putting prostitutes because they were putting a lot of money in prostitutes in Eastern Desert. And then at the end of the time, there was no money left. So they were living on credit all the time. So I think most of the people were living on credit. And they were asking if you work in the field, and people will feed you, for example, you can say, okay, I'll feed you, but it costs you this, and at the end of the month, you have nothing left. And what is left, usually we know that soldiers are paid 1 tetradrachma by week. So for example, the coin that I showed, the silver coins, it's 1 wage for a soldier for 1 week. And this coin, usually the soldiers are paid when they are coming back from war. Because they don't have to pay the people that are dead. So they pay them when they are back. And then at that moment, they are giving the full amount of money. It can be after 2 years, like they go 2 years in war and came back, and then they cash their revenues for 2 years. So you have to imagine that the economy is working there is big amounts every now and then, but not every. You don't have like day workers for example. I gave the amount for day workers because that's what we have in the top right. But you don't have to imagine that they are paid after every day. They are paid after 1 week, they are paid after 1 month, and then they have the money afterwards. So we have a lot of, we know a lot of these accounts in the antiquity. It's working pretty much the same. So you have also, when I was saying, you have to imagine that the economy is poorly monetized, and if you want to break something, to pay something small, you don't have money to pay for that. The smallest amount of money, we know that, is the entrance of the bus. The entrance of the bus, it was the smallest coin in circulation. But once again, when we excavate the bus, we found very few coins. But I think people, they're coming like a few times a week, so they were paying like every month or every week or something, and they were paying with it.
All right, so I'm sure our speaker will be happy to answer any questions informally after and let everyone else go, so that you can come up to the front and ask more questions if you would like.